DJ has to bet, and he's also dumb. Even though he's blind, he's not very fun. He has his own talk show. It's every gamer's dream. It's a crazy little talk show, and it's called Cookies and Cream.
Hey there, it's Cookies, and video games have a long history with depicting violence. Some games like Grand Theft Auto embrace the authenticity of getting a 5-star wanted level a la Cops.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy John don't come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do. Yeah.
While others, like The Last of Us, focus on utilizing violence to enhance themes within the narrative. I'm a horror fanatic, and recently I got sucked in by one of my good old friends, Cody, you know, the guy from Season 1, to buy the Outlast Trials. I saw a mixed reception in early access, but lo and behold, I am eating crow right now, as this game is quite fucking good. With most reviews ranging from solid to incredible, Outlast is a strange series, especially for me. See, Outlast 1 to me is an okay horror story wrapped in engaging gameplay, while 2 is an engaging story wrapped in okay gameplay. And some pretty awful level design, but I digress. These games are brutal, and I mean brutal, to the point that I will put this warning now. This video is going to go into some really sensitive subject matter. Outlast ain't give a fuck about cancel culture, to be honest. I mean, you're gonna see some shit. If you want to go in blind or advert your senses, now is the time, because I'm about to get to the point of this video. What fascinates me about the Outlast Trials in particular isn't the sensational character design. It isn't the seamless co-op elements, nor is it the way the mechanics of the game mirror the world building you experience. It's in the historical context that encompasses the entire meaning of the journey you take, whether alone, with friends, or randoms in the dorm rooms. Outlast Trials does what few games can: embrace the violent nature of gaming to bring attention towards some of the darkest historical international conflicts in politics. The Outlast Trials is a prequel to both Outlast 1 and 2, where we play as a customized character who goes into this experiment hosted by a group called the Murkoff Corporation. We pull a little rise and shine from our cozy corridor amongst our raggedy crew of misfits to go through some monitored trials. The more we comb through successfully, the closer we get to earning our freedom and escaping the chamber we live in day after day after day. But how did we get here? The intro cutscene shows the rather political presentation of the company, focusing on those that haven't found a stable place in society. It also sets the date for when this game takes place, a la 1959. Remember that, because it's gonna come into play later. Drug addicts, homeless, incarcerated, or even just someone looking to be a part of anything bigger are all called on. This intro sets the tone nicely, but for any horror game fanatic, you already know what you're in for. So we get it. The game's opening cinematic shows us a flyer that depicts a charitable organization performing research to better blah 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 blah. Yeah, Murkoff is fucked up. Once we get a pair of night vision goggles drilled into the sides of our heads,
investigatory information about your private life. Well, you've got some secrets, don't you? Naughty. As the restraints make a signature impossible, please acknowledge that you consent to these collections. Thank you. They're not bad looking, to be honest.
What if you go for that type?
Well, I ain't never been that picky.
I just hate seeing their eyes.
we are sent off into the tutorial zone, which is a pleasant introduction to what this game has in store. Opening up, we enter a facility that appears to have a makeshift mansion for us to explore. This introductory level gets us used to the controls, but more importantly sees us destroying files from both our personal life and private. Info that this corporation was able to get a hold of. We also run into Mother Gooseberry.
Willful and naughty. Look at this baby. Look what happens when baby listens to the voices on the radio and doesn't listen to mother.
You get the Bruce!
When babies are bad, mother gets disappointed.
And the baby gets the pill! Oh boy, Phyllis, I think I made a mess.
You see what happens when children try to grow up before their time?
Told you, this game ain't fucking around. The first objective of this game is having us let go of what we were, by us physically destroying the records that show we ever existed. I mean, this seems far-fetched, but if a third-party company can leak out almost 3 billion social security users, you know what? I got nothing to say. I don't know what you want from me. One slip by later, we finally awaken in our new home. We are greeted by video recordings of a Dr. Easterman, a charismatic figure shrouded in mystery, claiming we are working to earn our freedom.
You are the exterminator. Only we can tell you what is true. There is a snitch inside the prison, preparing to testify against our truth. Kill the snitch, and we will let you out.
How do we do this? Successfully complete 20, yeah, you heard me right, fucking 20 trials known as Program Genesis. In doing so, the gates to the front entrance will open and we will be allowed to pass. To what? We don't know. This area we wake in serves as the central hub in between missions where you can chat with other players and members of the facility. We have zero privacy from anyone, are constantly monitored by scientists and staff, have some semi-reluctant daily lunches, and finally get to experience what 60 days in is like from a gaming perspective. Oh, we can also play chess. Checkmate, bitches. With little information given to us, let's run through the cast of misfits that are here to aid our journey. First up is Emily Barlow. Nurse Barlow makes a real effort to be polite to everyone in the facility. She truly believes that Dr. Easterman is a genius, that the trials will define tomorrow's history, and that everybody's life can be improved with a little chemical assistance. She's also hornier than any of those vampire chicks from Dusk Till Dawn. There's this unhinged nature from her where you know she'll never rip your face off, but every sentence spoken still makes you uneasy with a comment out of left field. Then there's Doris. Doris had a hard life on the New York Bowery long before she ever came to this facility. No longer participating in the actual trials, she manages a careful economy of illicit goods inside the sleep room. She won't offer any services out the gate, however, since we're fresh blood. But she'll warm up to us. Next up in our trifecta of shady fucks is Cornelius. A veteran of World War II, Mr. Noakes was an Air Force engineer until he was recruited and abducted by the Murkoff Corporation. Mr. Noakes provides technical maintenance in this facility, but also offers to upgrade our rig with special abilities to help even the odds. He's reluctant to make friends because, again, he knows most of us won't live long, and he feels guilty for taking part in this cruel treatment. His truest friend, being his dog named Tango, like I'm reading off his fucking Hinge profile, but just like the Reagans, those also going through the trials, Noakes does want to escape this facility, if only he could. However, he is pessimistic beyond repair, and of the group having lost any hope of escaping said barriers. And has lost any hope of escaping said barriers. There's also the guard at the front gate, but fuck him, he won't let us leave. I know, I tried. Easterman himself is an interesting fellow who not only grades each of our trials we complete, but also presents himself as a father figure. It's clear this place is kind of sort of fucked up, but without any option, we hit up the terminal and head towards our first trial. Entering the trial, we are strapped in, hit with some psychosis-based gas, and we'll see a cutscene similar to this.
Whether a salary, an appetite, a passion, or an actual god in heaven, you have to choose your master. Show us how well you serve.
Easterman again remains behind a screen, but his presence is felt in every trial, always watching, whether by camera or scientists jotting down every action or reaction we take. I also want to take a second here to shout out this game's presentation, aka what seems to be a recurring theme amongst my most beloved games if you've been a longtime fan of this channel. Every environment we load into is a makeshift of the real world to help mimic the trial feeling, from animatronics, cardboard cutouts, and even areas beyond our reach where you could see scientists, again, jotting down notes or security personnel at the ready to ensure we don't try any bullshit. It's always a fun time to be running for your life, only to catch a glimpse of another human standing by watching you without offering any help, acting like all is well. It's also interesting how our first trial has us killing a snitch, aka some whistleblower within the Murkoff facility. Having this be our first trial, it's intentional, as not only does this weaken our mental state, but shows us to what extent our life will go if we ever think about stepping out of line. Having watched movies like this in the past, I tried everything I could to potentially find a way to escape the trial and not commit this act. Maybe a loose panel or electrical issue, but Murkoff has this entire place locked down tight. If we want to escape, we're gonna have to play ball. And watch out for Leland Coyle. Every level has a main psycho lurking around, and also some side enemies. Some are psychological, but most are real and will end you in a heartbeat if you get caught. Having to work through the trials requires strong skin and nerves, studying the layouts of the map for traps and shortcuts, powering generators to keep the lights active, using bricks, glass, even equipment left by dead players, or some not so much. Everything we have to survive is within the environment, but with the pressure on, it's up to us to act how we see fit. Through perseverance and will, we make it to the end and unfortunately murder this whistleblower by electrocution.
pay this back in spades!
Easterman sent his message. Ethics and morals will only go so far if we want our freedom from Murkoff. With what sense of compass we have left to make it back to the pods, we exit the trial and head back to our bunk room for the night. I want to preface now that while this game has a cooperative element, maps can be played solo. Another huge plus in its corner is in how it lets you act the way you want to in this situation. Want to team up and share tricks with other players? Go for it. Want to keep to yourself and ride solo a la Soulja Boy through each trial? Good on you. Want to bait your friends into going down and escaping on your own? Yeah, fuck you too, Cody. For a game all about chasing your freedom, there is plenty of freedom given to act in a manner you see fit, making most trials play out in dynamic ways from each other, but enough of that for now. We awaken with a message from Easterman. He seems pleased with our actions, but reassures us that the trials will only get harder from here. We go ahead and chat with some of the other souls in the facility, get a glimpse at some wheelchair guy up above, and after a nice morning breakfast, get ready for the next set of stages, where we are seen grinding bodies of evidence that were to be used in autopsies. Bodies we don't have identities to. Power up generators to escape a lockdown, and finally release a bunch of prisoner mannequins from their cells. One after another, we learn more of how the trials operate. Doors that we can disarm, medical equipment that can cure our psychosis, electric floors we can use to our advantage, and much more. At this point, our brains have begun the indoctrination, but with the levels of horror we are experiencing, that only allows Mr. Skinner to awaken. A psychological being that mirrors Easterman. This creature will constantly haunt our ass until we medicate ourselves enough to maintain any level of sanity despite how fucked all this shit is. The creature itself acts unlike any other being. At first he's terrifying until you realize he can't hurt you unless you are in full psychosis, because then he will stand near you, causing your character to choke to death like a little punk bitch, meaning you have to constantly run away from him. It's a neat detail though, all the torment thus far, Easterman has his hooks into us, and we've only just begun. After completing the first set of trials in the police station, we transfer over to an orphanage where Mother Goosey is back in black, baby.
You are an adult. The youth will not obey our orders and must be corrected. There are children murdering adults in the root canal. Punish the children, and we will let you out.
The next set of trials have us kidnapping mannequin kids, adjusting radio frequencies to brainwash children while also inhibiting their dance party.
Can we, Dr. Daddy? We'll just have to peel those frownies off and make some adjustments. And for a smile, you need a...
Knock yourself and dial screaming, fellas.
You need a mouth, Dr. Daddy. And for a mouth, you need a face. Look at that pretty face.
Yes, who invited you to my daughter's tunnel?
Oh, everybody's invited in, Dr. Daddy. It's a place so wonderful, nobody ever thought to leave.
Poisoning food for a classroom, and then changing film reels for said classes to display the teachings of Dr. Easterman. By now, we have grown and developed our patterns for overcoming these obstacles, whether by cooperation with other test subjects, stealthing solo, or using bait. The method doesn't seem to be the defining factor of the grade, but more so our execution. How quickly and quietly can we get through without being harmed? These levels dial up the carnage as we sit in a room pouring blood from a nude penis guy's legs,
And know that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. And also he took the cup, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. As oft as you drink it in remembrance of me. Wherefore whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup.
watch the overt sexualization of nuns, and get a further glimpse into Mother Goose's character. If you played the previous entries, then you should feel right at home. By now, it's more readily apparent these levels are styled after the traumatic experiences these fucked up individuals have gone through. The scare factor, despite being a multiplayer title, is still there in full force. And see, this is where the Outlast trials surprised me. The original titles both had moments in them that were difficult to watch. Shock value for the sake of shock value. However, the violence associated with actions we see and partake in during the Outlast trials serves a more significant purpose: indoctrination, which some of the actions are beyond fucked up and will have me saying Hail Marys with Ned Flanders. Yeah, some actions like serving human legs up to a room full of hungry children mannequins to electrocuting humans a la Saw traps seem over the top. But we need to realize that these types of hyperbolic actions have occurred in our history before. What many of us see as delusional, those charismatic narcissists akin to Charles Manson, Amy Carlson, Ron Lafferty, and way more all prey on as opportunity. Unfortunately for us, any opportunity of escape is within reach, and so we press on.
Spread my fruit on the next one, spread round here.
Cut sound. Well, what do you think?
Experience has taught me one truth about the human limits of terror and pain.
Which is?
There are none.
We have reached the halfway point to freedom, and through our travels have come across various documentation relating to not only the creation of this facility, but fill in on some of the background for the enemies we encounter. The standard grunts being failed test subjects prior, who are now used as cannon fodder. Even those big boys that absolutely scared the living freak out of me have a place in this psycho world. Contextualizing the items in a game, it's so fascinating to see, but I digress. Even it makes you wonder. We really aren't the first set of test subjects that have entered this facility. What's the end goal? Has anyone else ever made it out? Some of the notes detail how Dr. Easterman no longer shows himself in person due to the failures of the previous trials. What else is different now? Questions only take us so far, and each of the main cast are stuck in their ways that what little information they offer is glossed over in cryptic fashion. If you're me, or if you've ever played the previous titles, then you would assume that this corporation perhaps played into some of the MK Ultra experiments that were being conducted by the United States through groups like the CIA. While there is some clear truth to this in the notes we've discovered, the secret for Murkoff's endgame and the reason for the heightened violence goes much deeper than that. We've come this far. We won't stop now. With that, we load back up and head to a court-style environment with our good old pal again. This time, the goals differ. We begin by destroying evidence to rig an actual court case amongst mannequins. Murkoff has a dark sense of humor, but they make the point clear that just like our past, we can erase whatever was done prior, even if that means dismantling the judge, jury, and executioner for justice.
Not guilty, there! Your Honor, this trial is the clearest miscarriage of justice I've ever seen. The state has no evidence, no witness, and frankly, no case. I humbly request you toss out these charges and find my client not guilty. No! She's guilty! Send her to the fucking chair! What do you want me to say? Just tell me what you want me to say! Don't you do this! Don't you fucking dare! Make it stop! Coil!
Quote unquote. And you can quote me on the quote unquote. We solve some honestly clever Saw-like puzzles while also chasing witnesses using the Saw-like device to trigger electromagnetic things to blow up their heads. This shows a transition in goals. We began hiding from the law in plain sight, but now have become the hunter chasing the hunted. Our style of play now, more than ever before, has also become significantly more aggressive, barring all the upgrades we have earned from those back in the holding cells. We can see enemies through walls, heal ourselves, trigger gas explosions, and much more. We can break down barriers faster, run longer, and are being conditioned into a prime candidate for freedom. The fear turns into adrenaline, and with that, so does our understanding of these environments, mirrored after real-world locations. We discover hidden buttons to secret stashes Murkoff has hid for repeat runs, further rewarding the players who are observant and learn from past mistakes. We continue destroying evidence by burning bodies with acid and end this section by escaping the courthouse altogether. After committing such vile acts and becoming the hunter, we are taught how to disappear into the night, thus ending this section. The courthouse is arguably the high point for this experience, not just in terms of gameplay variety, but this feels like the aha moment where a lot of the subtle story beats come together. You may even begin to question more and more of the methods to our madness in each trial. We begin killing a man reaching for innocence, only to be filtered through trials that force us to slice off limbs, poison the minds of the youth, work on kidnapping techniques, dial up history to play in our favor, and most importantly, no longer fear the unknown. This game's horrors don't stay constant. Yes, you can still unfortunately place yourself in tense moments, but the game succeeds in revolutionizing your will to persevere in those dark moments. Right now, we have transcended farther than anyone else in the facility. We have witnessed such inhumane acts in the name of escaping this torment, to where only one final trial stands in our way.
But wait! There's more!
If we want to achieve rebirth, we first need to understand birth.
From the womb, from warmth and nourishing safety, to an involuntary, crushing expulsion. The plates of your skull literally separated and crushed, reshaping your brain. Bloody sexual trauma. Your mother's screams, and your father's horror, and then
The miracle of birth. We have a beautiful, innocent baby.
a new archetype of appetite and childish dependence. Franco Barbie, a gangster and murderer, a trafficker, Franco is a man-child who would use heroin to infantilize the world. His psyche centered around a totem, a powerful symbol to compensate for painful deficiencies.
You're talking about the gun.
Yes.
That seems unreasonably dangerous.
Well, of course we didn't give him live ammunition. But,
But?
he, may have made some himself.
How? Out of what?
I believe. Baby may be teething.
By now, you may have grown to appreciate your time between trials, whether it's eating some sus cans, catching some sus vibes, or beating some sus prisoners at chess. A game that is littered everywhere. Clear descriptions as well on how each piece moves. For me, the biggest aha moment came right before the final trial. Over the course of the game, I myself have gone under an indoctrination as a player. We are blinded by the excessive violence that the way we think between levels changes in a manner that was quite fascinating. Starting the game up, I entered a scared little bitch, with a few friends attempting to diagnose puzzles half-assly, while also booking it for our lives around each and every turn. Going in circles, making our heads spin, we would still refer to each other by our first names. A few trials and gallons of blood later, we were referring to each other as roles. We saw each other more as opportunities rather than the homies we are in real life. Witnessing this change in real time was mind-boggling, especially as we reach our foreseeable climax. The final set of trials takes an eerie turn with going through a toy factory, giving some Condemned 2 vibes. And any of you remember that one? How it's a story that went from serial killers to cults and turned into aliens before the third title that inevitably never happened. Fuck it. A video for another day. The thematic presentation here mimics the mindset of what we have been doing, tearing apart one's own exterior to build them in a light only the all-knowing Easterman would approve of, aka mutilate live beings with wax and burn some erotic sex toys. It's honestly a level that tests our abilities to the limit, with numerous puzzles and obstacles made to illustrate how far we have come from our first set of trials. We have gone farther than anyone else in the facility, and Easterman recognizes this. For now, we have earned the right to win back our freedom.
The trials are inside you now. If you can survive one final test, you can leave this place. This is the hostile womb from which you must claw your way to freedom, to power, to history. You will be a perfect weapon, the most innocent child ever born. You're the future.
So you finally got 20 trials under your belt. From here, the front gate is available for you. This is such a powerful moment, as you may have been seeing subjects prior go in, but unknowingly to all what laid on the other side. Unless you Googled it, but I did not, because I like to surprise myself. Fuck the 21st century. We finally get to take that step, but unfortunately, unlike other trials, we can only do this one solo. See, this trial isn't coded with a political message beneath the surface, nor is it challenging our fears in intricate ways. This final trial, it's our trial. The perfect moment akin to the Saw franchise is when we are brought back to the trial from the beginning. But now we're playing it in reverse. We have one final set of tasks. Activate some transmitters with pre-recorded messages from Easterman, set up a video feed, and ultimately earn our escape. The areas here are claustrophobic, making every moment count. Enemies hit twice as hard, and no area is safe. We have surveillance cameras that will lock down if we are seen. This level forces you to play at your absolute best, but it's still not without those moments of shock. One that got me more than most was the courtyard with a walking psycho. Nothing out of the ordinary until you realize they have a pair of night vision goggles drilled into their head like us. This was someone before us who broke just feet away, just meters away before they were free. We can't end up like them. Even with everything we've seen, there's still a chance we can escape. With death being one mistake away, every footstep and reflection just takes on a whole new meaning here. Not to mention how the enemies in this environment begin moving similar to the various chess pieces, which is a brilliant piece of game design. Another reflection to our times in the rehabilitation program, as we can utilize those same exact moves that we learned on the chessboard to make it through unscathed. Once the transmitters are set, we work on collecting a new set of documents detailing our brand new life. Whatever we were before is no longer. We have earned our way to freedom. On our way out the front door, we hear Easterman chant select words: spider, eye, lamb. We've done it. We have gone through excruciating circumstances, lost friends, made enemies, went through trials again and again to perfect the methods of escape we've been reaching for ever since that first flyer hit our view. Freedom is right from where we came. Now's your chance. Take it.
If you ain't guilty, then why are you running?
So the Outlast Trials has a point to its violence. For this ending, it may seem arbitrary at first, awakening in a pool of blood on a hotel bed with noise outside on the streets, only to be locked in a room until a call from Easterman chants those 3 words we heard in the final trial. Enough beating around the bush here, I'm going to come out and say it. We were the first person who attempted to assassinate Fidel Castro.
You are the exterminator. Only we can tell you what is true. You will be a perfect weapon. The most innocent child ever born. You're the future.
You have to shock yourself out of the comforts and lazy assumptions. Accept the therapy. I'm trying to make you a miracle. It's not something we can achieve with half measures. Every trial is an evaluation and a prize in the same moment.
Kill the snitch. You can leave this place. This is the hostile womb from which you must claw your way to freedom, to power, to history.
You're making so much progress. My inspiration, a gift to science. Nobody else is operating on your level, and I have special things planned for you. Tomorrow's wars will be endless and quiet, and we will win them with silent weapons like you. You're the one teaching me.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore. Game over.
Looking outside the facility, you can see that our location is set in Cuba, and you do recall that the flyer in the beginning of the game detailing this date. The entire program is being done with the unofficial support of the government. This we know of as there are plenty of references to Murkoff disguising their public feats as a charitable contribution, allowing for financing to be more easily acceptable from various countries and private entities. Remember MKUltra, the mind control program that the CIA had an attempt to control and brainwash people to do their bidding? The Outlast trials are extensions of that program. The entire point of the trial is to reprogram those sleeper agents to do their will, and by extension the US government and/or highest bidder. At the end of the game, that bright white light and sound we saw, swimming in an ocean to a blinding light, that is the indoctrination taking full effect. By completing the trial, we have officially succumbed to the teachings of Easterman and no longer have direct control of our memory or actions. You are always being monitored by Easterman. Except you are different. Special. You never broke. You didn't give in to your mind's temptations. The unbearable acts of war and skirmishes wouldn't be enough to weigh you down. When push came to shove, you became elite, but in how was always up to you. No one same chess piece will act the same. But the role of the piece will always limit your ability to merge with the Genesis program. Why Genesis? Well, this entire trial is the origin point for an international debacle known as the Cold War. The player is one that they gave to the government and sent to Cuba to aid in the growing revolution down there because at the time of the game, the 1950s and communist movements were a growing threat, at least perceived from the United States by the CIA, and with Cuba right next door to the USA, dozens of assassination attempts were made on Castro's life. And from this game's take on historical fiction, we ultimately failed. As for the call at the end, that is left to interpretation. It could be possible we were summoned to continue our due diligence in completing the mission, or what I believe, it could have been a self-destruct sequence. After all, we did destroy the records of who we were. We would go down as some unknown assailant. Think about it. We were always doing Murkoff's bidding. Early on, we murdered a whistleblower to protect their secrets. We destroyed the bodies of past trial test subjects to ensure no physical evidence was left behind. They created a closed-loop system to ensure that their actual goals stayed a mystery, but they could also continue creating these insurgents to stimulate war and both political and economic gain. We became the queen on the chessboard, learning from each trial, adapting the movesets of others. However, Murkoff, and to an extension Easterman, were always going to be the king in this scenario, whether we stayed on the board, completed all the trials, or were removed entirely. Now that is how you write a motherfucking ending to a rather jaw-dropping 8-hour adventure with endless replayability. This game has additional trials added on to further develop Murkoff's history with fucked up experiments. One's geared towards weaponry used in the Vietnam War. Some focused on developing soldiers akin to blah blah blah. That is the point to the violence in this game. It clearly illustrates the slow burn horror of becoming brainwashed into acts beyond your comprehension. We all know the dangers and beyond fucked up nature of MKUltra. CIA experiments litter the internet as information is more accessible now than ever before, but to see it play out for our character in real time is a use of violence in the medium I have not seen executed on such a level. The Outlast Trials is memorable for its violence, but not in the same ways 1 and 2 were. For this title has shown us the historical nature of what such ideas and experiments have done to the human mind. Now that is gaming with a purpose.